Cheers, guys. Epix here. I'm your host. This is the VR Show, Episode 8. Lots of games this week, guys. If you thought there were lots of games in previous weeks, I think this whole back to school, whatever you want to call it in September, is leading to a lot of releases. And not just releases, but good quality titles. This probably has been my personal busiest week, playing a little bit of catch up on all fronts. PlayStation VR, Rift, Vive, made some purchases. We'll talk about that in a second. So we're going to cover tons of games. We are going to talk about the North American institution of the shopping mall and what virtual reality could mean to the shopping mall. We're also going to talk about a program called Wrench in VR Chat, which is absolutely freaking stunning in terms of what it's designed to do. And that's simply present you with car parts that you assemble and basically build your own car engine. It's absolutely stunning. We'll look at the games in the VR XP section and, of course, the VR Roundup segment for all the current events in and around VR of this last week. But let's talk about my catch-up first, guys. The first purchase I made was this baby here. I don't know why I waited so long. I think part of it was justifying to myself, the thought that this is basically a chunk of plastic, which it is, but pleasantly surprised. It has way more heft than I thought it had. And probably because I made some cheap versions of PVC VR Vive wand holders in the past. Not as good as some of my viewers. You know who you are. But yeah, that was kind of my thinking. Oh, it's going to be lightweight. No, there's actual heft to this. And no shortage of controls. You've essentially got the Move controllers displaced onto this. 2 analog nubs. You've got your triggers, which are obviously your R1s, 2s, L1s, 2s, 3s, your select, your PlayStation button. It's all here and super easy to set up. Basically, line up the ball with a circle on the screen on your HMD and you're good to go. So I've tried this on Doom VFR, which still doesn't beat Doom 3 BFG. In my opinion, pacing-wise, I prefer that one. But holy Hannah, way more fun playing that game with the aim controller versus the DualShocks. Night and day. And of course, Firewall, which was the bundle, Firewall 0 Hour, that I purchased this in. And PlayStation VR Frank, who's going to be a community manager for Firewall 0 Hour. Congrats, man. Well deserved. But yeah, he'd hyped me on this purchase, and I'm glad I did it. So couple of things I've tried out already. Can't wait to try out more. The other purchase I made was a game that passed me by back when I was on hiatus, and that, of course, is Beat Saber. Now, I'm a huge fan of Audio Shield. Audio Shield, a game where you block musical notes, pulses, whatever you want to call them. In Beat Saber, of course, all of you know I'm kind of preaching to the choir with this. You're slashing them with sabers instead. Way too much fun. And then finally, Windlands.to, which I did a video on. The videos don't tend to do, have as much reach as the VR show does, but I had a lot of fun in it. If you're curious about Windlands.to, guys, give the video a check out. I basically go up to and through the first boss encounter. An absolute freaking blast, that game. Almost beat it, basically. After the show gets recorded, I'm going to finish that off. I can't wait. So yeah, it's been action-packed, guys. And I also just want to say thank you. The last VR show, hitting that like button. It's not something I like to talk about and harp and all that kind of crap. But thank you so much for all the likes to that video, all the comments. It pushed the video, I kid you not, 3 times its normal reach. And if you're curious, take a look on Social Blade. You'll see the impact of that video in terms of subscribers and views. It was awesome. Thank you, guys. And with that said, guys, grab a bevy of choice, a snack, sit back, chillax, and let's take a look at VR Roundup. First up, I expect you to die. Every single one of you. Okay, not really. Rather, the game I Expect You to Die, which has pretty much been launched on every single platform that caters to VR, they've surpassed 3 million in revenue. And of note, which I think is pretty cool, is that they passed the 1 million mark at the end of the first year. Now, not even a full additional year later, so 2 years in total, they passed another 2 million in revenue for a total of over 3 million in revenue. Well done. I'm not really a coupon guy or, a gift certificate guy. I usually believe in the old cash gift, but there's a pretty cool Survey $150 gift certificate Amazon US giveaway for completing a survey. It's kind of via Road to VR, their website. I went through the survey, guys. I wouldn't talk about it unless I've actually gone through it to, ensure it's not total cruft BS. It wasn't. It was pretty standard. It's there to gauge what those of us who have VR are looking for, what our habits are. If you're not comfortable with that, fair enough. If you are, and you want to get that information to devs and have the chance of a $150 US Amazon gift certificate, I will include the link in the description below. Google appears to be ramping up research and development for some new AR and VR lens technology. Some recent job listings over at Google appear to show the ramp up for new optical lenses for both AR and VR. One listing, for example, looking for a diamond turning technician experienced in operating state-of-the-art lathe equipment for precision optics prototyping. And the same ad describes an internal dynamic research and development laboratory with a focus on new and novel designs and a close partnership with world-class optical and mechanical designers. The position is at Google's Mountain View headquarters. The Void, one of my favorite VR arcade style setups, responsible for titles like the Ghostbusters that I personally got to try, Star Wars, which I hope to try one day. It's more warehouse style tracking, not true warehouse, but definitely grander than room scale. Well, they have indicated that they have 5 new Disney and Marvel experiences in the pipe, so they're in the development phase. They haven't covered what, but they have stated that it's likely going to include some of the upcoming Marvel movies in terms of content. Well, we know we've got Captain Marvel coming up, Spider-Man Far From Home, and an as of yet unnamed Avengers film. So it's going to be interesting to see what gets picked up, for intellectual property and gets turned into an experience. Either way, very, very cool. We're going to talk about VR arcades in the chat segment. I got some more to talk about on that. First up, upcoming VR shooter Evasion, which is going to launch on Rift, Vive, and PlayStation VR on October 9th. A game that places a heavy emphasis on arcade-style first-person action. Talking about the aim controller earlier, the PSVR version is going to use the aim controller, whereas the 2 PC platforms are going to utilize their dual-tracked controllers. Like I said, the emphasis on this title, arcade action in the form of mobility as a game mechanic. The better you move and the longer intervals between hits, the better you do energy-wise and, of course, power output. Any attacks then deplete this, so short bursts, short burst attacks are going to deplete short bursts of energy. You also get massive attacks that likewise deplete massive bursts of energy from your bar. Now, what's interesting about this is that standing still works the opposite. You don't do as much power, but you regenerate health much, much quicker. So the choice, fast and powerful, or stationary and weak, but regenerative health-wise. The Oculus GO version of guided meditation makes use of Carmack's 5K playback technology. We talked about that a few episodes ago. While the PC HMD versions can draw on PC GPUs, for example, to power them, the Oculus GO is going to lean heavily on Carmack's developed technology, utilizes 360-degree video captures rather than the real-time rendering of its PC cousins. The devs feel the technique is well suited to the static viewpoints offered in the Go version for guided meditation, and they say it's going to help deliver a high level of visual fidelity for the Oculus Go. Anyone who's watched the channel for a while knows I'm a sucker for not only RPGs, but Skyrim VR on PC because of modding. I think modding just totally changes the Skyrim VR experience. Well, Upload VR, including their own list of 40 amazing must-have Skyrim mods, urge you to check that out. If you haven't tried modding yet, guys, but you love Skyrim, but you're a bit bored with the vanilla content, give it a shot. You know, you will not be disappointed. It's an older engine that plays very, very nice with, you know, graphical enhancement mods, for example. You'll still get decent performance. I've got Adventure Quest mods, graphical mods, etc. So go check out their list. I'll have the link for that in the description below. Then the next title, Everybody's Golf. Unfortunately, a PlayStation VR exclusive that's going to launch in 2019. The game developed by Clap Hands in association with Sony Japan. The devs haven't finalized whether they're going to use DualShock 4 or PlayStation Move or either, but they say they're trying to focus on matching the experience to swinging an actual golf club. Not quite sure how they're going to pull that off given some of the tracking issues, but definitely curious and willing to find out. Now, it's a single-player only game experience, but one in which the devs state you can see the uneven terrain, read wind direction, and experience the nature of the golf course, all with your own eyes in 360 degrees. Then this title. This one has me pretty interested. Deracine. Well, it's got some French accents on there, so I'm probably butchering that, but it's from the devs of Dark Souls, and it's a PlayStation VR story adventure, so unfortunately it looks like it's going to be another exclusive, this time launching in November, but if you have a PlayStation VR, it sounds really interesting. The story is about a young schoolgirl who summons a fairy at the boarding school where she resides. You don't play the part of the girl, instead you play the part of the spirit, and you assist her in solving various puzzles. The game includes timed puzzles and the ability to freeze time based on solving those puzzles. That's huge in the game. They also, however, promise a very deep narrative to go along with the puzzles. Producer Masaki Yamagiwa saying the player will come to discover that information you initially thought was simple will take on far greater meanings. The core of this experience found in the small epiphanies, those moments where the dots connect and players learn something new. Now, I mentioned I'm a sucker for RPGs. Kingdom Hearts was one of those, albeit action RPG, although I have to admit that when it comes to Square Enix, with regards to VR, I'm pretty damn skeptical given their track record with titles like Final Fantasy Fishing, which, I'm gonna be real, did absolutely nothing for me. However, I do and have enjoyed past Kingdom Hearts, and apparently what they're doing, it's free, it's a short 10-minute experience, and it's going to include highlights of past Kingdom Hearts titles. So if anything, I think I'm going to give this a shot just to see what they can come up with. You know, maybe some VR innovations they're going to be able to throw at this, some Square Enix twists. I'd love to see, you know, the Star Wars Tatooine experience, for example, equally short, but I enjoyed it, and it's free. And then DNA, a Japan-based mobile game developer known for titles on Nintendo like Super Mario Run and Fire Emblem Heroes, they've announced a new VR adventure game for PlayStation VR, Vive, and Rift that they're calling VOXEL. It's also a puzzler, but it has combat elements. In the trailer, you can see a first-person experience where you're assisting a woman to solve puzzles using a magic wand and glowing purple stones. One of these stones mysteriously chained to her left leg. The devs say the objective of each level is to destroy an antenna that's blocking the world's ability to produce colors and sounds. You can levitate the glowing purple rocks and use the wand's powers to manipulate various elements like wind, earth, fire, all of which play into the game's puzzles. One example is a puzzle where you're trying to manipulate a windmill and you're using the wand to generate gusts of wind. No official release date other than the spring of 2019. I've said it before, I'm a sucker for mech games. Mech games in VR, holy crap, Can't wait. Of course, my perfect ideal one would be a slow lumbering RPG MechWarrior mercenary style experience. You know, think Elite Dangerous, but in a MechWarrior cockpit instead. Until then, we're going to have to make do with VOX MACHINAE, which looks absolutely fantastic. It was first teased way back in 2014. It's going to go into early access this fall, HTC Vive, Oculus Rift, and Windows VR headsets. Absolutely cannot wait. Alright guys, let's slow things down a little bit for the VR chat segment. I want to talk about VR training possibilities, and we're going to start with the title Wrench. Wrench is a title that's been around for a bit of a while in terms of a prototype version, well over a year ago. We've seen some alpha updates. There's a video playing in the background right now in the picture-in-picture. That's an alpha from May of 2018. The reason I'm so excited about this title, guys, is it encapsulates everything that I think lends virtual reality to becoming the premier, the sole single best alternative to actually training in physical reality. The detail that the dev has gone through with Wrench is staggering. Everything from ratchets, and you're going to see this in the video. There's emulation / simulation for torque. It's realistic to the point that while there's no haptics for, the resistance of doing actual ratcheting, what he's done is incorporated a game mechanic or simulation mechanic where you've really, when you pull back on the ratchet, it only moves a tiny little bit. And I think it's just an ingenious way to simulate that in reality. So why so excited, Epics? Because VR is the great equalizer. If there's one thing that I wish I could just point to instantly whenever anybody is, negative around me with regards to virtual reality, that would be it. Oh, it's a fad. It's going away. I know I've beaten it to death, guys. You guys have beaten it to death. All of us as VR enthusiasts have beaten it to death. But it's an ongoing struggle to remind people. And this is case in point, full stop, period. Imagine being in a class in a third world country. Now, you might say, okay, well, if they don't have the funds, for proper supplies, what makes you think they're going to be able to do this? Because the alternative is that much more expensive. The ability with virtual reality to simulate, say you want to become a mechanic, heavy-duty mechanic, maybe you want to work on oil rig platforms, or heavy-duty industrial machinery. Maybe you're a mechanical engineer. Whatever your trade, whatever your discipline, VR is going to be able to simulate that so closely to the actual reality of doing it. It's going to be such a close second best. It will be part of school curriculums in the future, and it's only going to get better. Is that genie suddenly going to get stuffed back into the bottle? Hell no. And that is, for me, the part that's so frustrating. They being the cynics again, somehow think all of that's going to be undone and just go away. The great equalizer, VR for training, is going to go away? Hell no. So what you're seeing on Wrench in the pip is how detailed this application is. Every bolt, every part of the car engines that are incorporated into this, rendered, developed with meticulous eye to detail. And that's what makes it so powerful. What are the other alternatives to actually physically working on an engine? Diagrams, right? Pictures, static, possibly videos. Human beings tend to have specific methods, by which they learn. Some people learn better visually. Some people better hands-on. VR combines both of those disciplines. It gives the visual learner what they want. It gives the hands-on person what they want. and it melds the two. And there's no other form of training, short of, again, hands-on, physical, that can duplicate to the same level that VR can. So that's why I get so excited about a simple application, where you're putting together a car engine, because it's not just about car engines, it's about every single physical trade on this entire planet that utilizes a human being's hands or working with tools. That's going to be able to be recreated in VR and become part of training curriculum in the future. So that's absolutely why I get so excited. I can see it used for so many other things. On that same tangent, Oculus, via parent company Facebook, is working with educational institutes globally to accomplish a couple of different things with VR. So they're supplying the Rifts and Oculus GOs, and the three initial territories that they're working with: Taiwan, Japan, and the city of Seattle. So in Taiwan, they're working with the Internet E-commerce Association to get virtual reality into museums and libraries. Yet another awesome application. Second best alternative to actually being there. I loved being in the Vatican as a tourist. The art, the Sistine Chapel, the majesty of it all. But if you've ever been there, it's a frickin' annoying experience. You have security guards who have really no choice, because the crowds they let in, which they need to let in or you'd never get in, are constantly asked to move on with whistles. So you're looking at something, you're enjoying, the Sistine Chapel, and then you're whistled to move on. It's annoying. It is not a fun way of being a tourist. Apply that to VR. Sure, you're not there, but when the resolution, the field of view, when all of that catches up, and it will be the second best alternative to being there. There's no whistle that's going to force me to move on. I'm going to be able to take it all in and translate that to any place on Earth, translate that to history classes, social studies, geography, almost every discipline I can think of, even mathematics and English, have VR interface potential. So that's Taiwan. In Japan, they're also working with government agencies. And in Seattle, I like this one, they're directly working with the school system. They picked some or selected some public schools for the instructors and students to work together to develop curriculum. And to circle back to Japan, what they're doing there is aids for distance learning. Now, I've done distance learning, a hell of a lot of it. After my original computer science degree work, I went and got additional certificates, diplomas, and business degree working remotely, doing distance education, a lot of it with Thompson River University in British Columbia, for example. And if you've ever done that, it feels very 1980s, 1990s, that kind of BBS / forum style experience of the mid to late 90s. That's distance education. And yet it's 2018. Another area that I think VR can make a huge push is distance education. Simulate the classroom experience, sitting with people. Having tried the Wave VR, I can see the potential for social interaction now way better and with much more clarity than I could before. So fantastic. Then the last thing I want to just talk about quick, guys, is the shopping mall, the dearth and death of the shopping mall. In the 80s and 90s, they were the place to go because they were destinations because of theaters generally in them, arcades in them. Now it's basically retail clothing or cell phones or third-party cell phone peripherals or repairs. That's your shopping mall experience. There are some exceptions. Virtual reality has the potential to be back into VR arcades, not just replicating the home experience, but providing an experience you cannot possibly have at home as a reason to go to the malls. So hopefully it's not too late, because we know what's happened out there, the battles with Walmart. And here in Canada, for example, so many department stores that were anchor tenants in shopping mall fallen to the wayside. Zellers, Kmart, Eaton's, Woodward's, Woolco, And I could go on, there's a few more. So any possibility to kind of revitalize shopping malls, yeah, I think VR has potential there. Absolutely. Probably not at the anchor tenant level, but certainly added reason to want to go to one. Guys, let me know your thoughts on these VR chat topics in the comment section below. Love to hear from you guys. With that said, hope you have a fantastic kick-arse weekend and a fantastic week to boot. Streaming and other content coming at you this week. Guys, can't wait. Have a kick-arse one. As always, cheers.